This is Dr. Von Mad. We're about to start painting the snake. Now, as you all know, when I start painting, I always go with a black coat. The reason for that is it bleeds through. The white paint will bleed through. I don't think it's because I overcooked this dude just a hair. I don't think that's going to be as big an issue, but we're going to paint him black anyways because on down the road, the shading and stuff will shine through nicely. So, let's begin. Let's begin. Now, so my paintbrush is a little stiff today. Why should that be different than me? Let me see if we got any paintbrushes that are not stiff. Now that one's my fine point brush. I don't really want it right now. We'll try this one here. It's kind of a medium brush. I got a dirty shirt on, so I can use it to wipe off my water. So let's go ahead and get this thing going. Again, we start at the head and we work our way back. So we're going to paint the pupils on the eyes because to cut them in. Now, I used to cut them in when I was younger, but it just didn't quite look as good as it does when you paint things on. Because when they paint them on, it actually looks like it's like interior and stuff. I'm going to use a little gloss black on the eyes once it's all done. A little gloss black on the eyes, or a little gloss type orange, because the eyes are kind of a brownish orange with a black circle in the middle, so I'll use the onyx black for that. And as you can see, you really can't tell here yet, but your color, the scales and things are already starting to pop, even with the black paint on it, because the light reflecting off of the wet paint kind of brings out that pattern. Now, I'm trying to determine what kind of diorama I'm going to set up. These things frequent barns, so I'm thinking I need some sort of like a barn, like a corner of a barn or something with like old wood or something, like an old wood plank or something. But we're going to have to see what we can do. So we'll figure it out, and it's time. We'll probably have to do this 2 or 3 times because the paint's not always going to want to go in the crevices. Like I said, making a snake is a lot more time consuming than you would think. So yeah. So I said, a lot more time consuming, and there's a lot more involved than most people realize. Not just a matter of rolling up some clay. That'll get you the basic shape, but it's not going to bring out all the little details and things. We'll probably have to do this in pieces, and I'll have to. I am going to do the painting as a single video though, so there is that. So once you see this, even if I have to let some of this paint dry between them, you will see the painting part of it in its entirety. I'm going to have to get some more paint here. Yeah. So, stop and have myself a drink of my soda pop. My favorite cup. The only thing missing now would be a little background music, but then you wouldn't be able to hear me talking to you. When I was a kid, that's exactly how I'd spend many a Saturday morning. Painting artwork, drinking myself a soda pop, Kool-Aid or whatever I happen to have on hand, and painting this artwork like I'm doing right now. Maybe listening to a little Weird Al Yankovic or something. Now, I'm going to have to paint the underside, but well, at least everything is not going to be up against the frame. The diorama frame is going to be this little wooden placket we're on top of right now. But I want to get our little friend here painted first, because I got to figure out how I'm going to position him. I'm going to have to get his underside and his chin and all this stuff when it dries. So, we're going to let this dry, and I'll be back with you in a few. Well, we're back for a minute here, and now that this paint that I've laid down is dry, I can start getting some of these details. You can see, like right up underneath here. So we're going to try to whoop this up underneath here and get some kind of hit in places where we can't hit otherwise. And I'll have to probably use a fine brush to kind of hit the spots that we can't get with this current brush. So yeah, now then. Actually, I got under the chin pretty good, it looks like. Now, let's go for the pointy brush. Nope, that's not the pointy brush. Nope, that's not the pointy brush. And that's certainly not it. Here, pointy brush. Here you go. Now, we're going to have to use it because, as you probably can't see too good, but maybe there's a few white places between the scales. And on a snake, in some cases, that would be expected. But I really just, it comes across looking not as pretty when you can't get that paint into those grooves. So we're going to try to see if we can get that paint into them grooves. See, like right in there, there's a big hole I got to get some paint into. There we go. You don't want to just slop it on there because you might end up filling in the grooves to such a point where you can't even see the scales that you just worked so hard putting in place. See, like right up there around the lip. Got another one right here. I just dab this in and try to Alright, I'll let that do its thing. I see one more spot here. Right along there. I got another one right over here. There we go. That was always the hardest part. Getting paint in all them little grooves. Excuse me. Alright. Now. Another little spot right in here. Now, we're going to let that dry, and we'll come back and start doing the colorations, I believe. So, we'll be back with you shortly. Alright, we're back, and we'll show you what we're going to be doing now. I need melted chocolate. That's going to be the basis for the whole thing. I gotta find my rag here. We actually got a rag for this. Yeah, here it is. Had to find my paint rag. That will be needed here now. So I need to get a flat brush like that one. Clean it, and it couldn't dry because what we're going to be doing next. Get a little bit of this brown paint. Just barely want to get a whole lot on it. Kind of come down here. I've got the brush here. Just kind of do that. You just barely want any of this brown paint on it. Try a little more than what I got, but we're going to work with that because you're going to be using less paint the further you get out from the main coat. So, and I still got a few white spots, but I think that'll be okay. Once it's all put in together here, you won't notice it as bad. Go ahead and grab a little bit more. So don't want to use a whole lot. You don't want to completely infill it. And the reason we're going with brown, even though the snake itself, as you probably noticed, was orange, it's quite simple. So I don't, because we're going to end up going with a lighter color the next time. See, now I got too much paint right there. What you want to do, come over here and just kind of dab it off just a hair with your rag. You don't want to go too hard on it, but just kind of dab it off just a tiny little bit. Now just kind of lick at it with the brush like this, and that way you'll get, as you don't want to get it so much that it literally gets into the places that you cut open. You want those to remain painted black. You don't want to lose all that texture, which it will do if you let it do that. And you can already start to see the scales and things starting to pop. A little more paint. Dab it off here. I don't want to go with too much paint, but okay, see, that was too much right there. I'm not really worried about the base because we're going to be painting over it. Get in underneath here. One of the hardest places to sculpt and to paint. Right underneath there. See, the reason we're going with this dark color is because when you're doing this style of painting, you're going from the darkest shade to the lightest. And this is the way I was taught to do it. And is the way I am now teaching you to do it. Ain't it cool how that works? Turn him around. Let's get his tail here. Kind of get a little extra off because I don't want to overdo it. You can already see the scales and things popping out now. And you're not going to get all of it because, like I said, we're going to be using some of it, and I got way too much paint on that time. But we're going to repaint this, so that's not going to really matter in the end. You see. See, we did in fact, remember that little fissure I was talking about on the tail? We did in fact get one. Fortunately, that's going to be glued down, so that's not going to be a big issue. But I do got this underneath coil here I got to clean up. There you go. because there's just going to be some angles you're not going to see them, so you just kind of only have to hint at it a little bit. Now, we've got the second part of this done, that brown undercoat. Now we got to go and get some other colors, and I will be back with you in a few minutes. Alright, we're back. I'm going to use this little cap. I can't seem to find my palette anywhere, but we'll use that until I can find it. Maybe find it in the morning. Our next step, we're going to be using a bit more of this melted chocolate color, and I'm just going to put a little tiny pinch into here. Don't want a whole lot, because now we're going to squeeze out a bit of this jack-o'-lantern orange, because if you remember, I'll show you in just a minute, our snake is kind of an orangish color, kind of a brownish orange. So what we're going to do, we're going to mix this up. Let me get my brush, clean it off. You notice the brushes I use aren't quite as fancy as the ones Mike uses. The arts are a little different. Alright. Okay, we've mixed it. Now, here's the difference now. I'm going to be using a lot less of this than I used of the chocolate. So what we're going to do is I'm going to come over here. I want to just kind of brush off a little bit of the extra and come over here and just barely kiss it with the paint, because you're just basically wanting to lighten it up just a hair, but you don't want to undo what you've already put on. So you just kind of just do this along it, just barely touch it. And this is the dry brush method. It basically means by the time you get to the other side, as opposed to completely covering it, your paint should be dry. As you can see, it does bring it out. I'm going to get a little more. We're going to do this again. Get all the excess off. I'm going to come over here and go over this and touch it up again. This is what we're going to be. It's a slow process. It truly is. Because of the way it's happened to be done, it's going to be a slow process. As the next step, we're going to have to come back and add a little bit more to it. Go ahead and get his tail covered here. A little more of this. Brush off a little more of this over here. Now let's hit that tail. Now you should already start to see a little more of the coloring going on, popping out now. We're going to add a little bit more of this orange to our paint. So what we're trying to do is bring this color up in layers, going from the darkest color, which was the black at the base coat, to the eventual final shade, and we will kind of glaze over it with a little white to really cause the colors to pop. Now you can see this paint color is getting a bit brighter now. Now we're going to come over here, use my little slapper plate here that I've made out of this piece of cardstock. Get all the excess off. And I'm trying to keep it off my base, off my backdrop here, because I don't want to mess it up. So let's put this over here. Now, kind of just head it up and The color should be getting lighter every time, and it's almost indetectable. I can see it a bit better, one, because I'm painting it, and two, because, you know, the lens does not translate always well as it should. But you know that. Just a little bit pinched there. Get a little bit more of it. Come in here. You don't want to get in a hurry. I know it seems like I do this fast, but believe it or not, I'm not in much of a hurry. It would not go as well if it was. Now I think I'm going to bring in a little more orange. Maybe, or just maybe even a little white. Let's try some white. Let me shake this up good. This white has a tendency to separate. See how that turned into kind of a milky sort of stuff? I was afraid it's going to do that. White paint tends to do that. But it does lighten it a little bit, so we'll try that and see how that works. Go ahead and, not as much as I'd like, give us a good shaking this time. And see if we can, see, now we're getting, we'll have to probably end up having to go get some more white, because this is going to be somewhat of a nuisance, I can tell. There we go. Had to go in the hard way. I'm probably going to have to go and get some regular white. That white's pretty well shot. But it did lighten it a little bit, so maybe there's something there. Go ahead and wipe off this excess. I want even less on it this time than I had last time. So what you're doing is dusting it. You just barely want a hint of it. Ah, yeah, that's bringing out some more. And you're also kind of, and I probably will end up adding more orange to it, because that's not the shade I'm looking for, so I'll probably end up having to add more orange. There you go. Just realizing I might have been off focus a little bit. Alright, now. Got a little too much paint there. It's not. I'm gonna have to get some more orange in there. That's not the right color. I might add a little bit, maybe a little red. Let's see what a little bit of this spiced berry looks like in there. Okay. Let's see how this works now. A little bit of the spiced berry red. To kind of, a little bit better, a little bit better. Let's add a little bit of yellow to it. In this case, just straight up yellow. Just shake it up. Because yellow and white, I don't know what it is. Always want to separate. Now, that's a bit better. Let's see here. I'll go ahead and grab my paint rag and clean off the excess that way. kind of get a little excess off of it. Now, turn the camera back to me a little bit. Get a little more excess off. A little more of it down here. Dry brush a little more off. Now, like I said, we're going from lighter, darker colors to lighter colors. And it's starting to, details you weren't able to see before will start to pop. There we go. I'm gonna have to go get some more white. That little bottle of white's, I think, apparently past its expiration date because it's liquid. Tell you what, I'll be back with you in a minute. As you can see, I bought a big jug of this a while back, thinking I was going to end up needing it. And I'm probably correct. Is this thing sealed on top? Yes, it is. There's a seal. Did not expect that, but I'm glad it was there. Alright, now, add just a hint of white paint. Now, that's what white paint's supposed to look like. Now, lighten this color up a bit. Oh yeah. Now that's what it's supposed to look like. Now, go ahead and get this excess off of it, off my brush. We'll go in and do another layer of dry brush now. Probably going to end up having to add a little more orange to it. So it's a nice shade of nutmeg brown, but it's not what I'm looking for. You can see why they call this dry brushing, as even as you're done, that color is still there. And it's dry already. So this can be if it's done properly, can be an incredibly fast method of painting. Now, rinse that off. I'm going to add a little more orange to our mix over here. I want to get enough in there. and probably a little bit of lipstick red. Not a whole lot, but just a little bit of lipstick red. If I can get it open. There it goes. Clean my brush so I don't contaminate my stuff. Lipstick red's about at it too. Alright, let me see what I can get now. Get a good mix. Now that's approaching the color I'm wanting. Now we're getting to the color close to what I'm wanting. Because it's got to be orange. It's not got to be a pumpkin orange, but it does got to be like maybe like a burnt orange or something. Now, this last coat's going to be even less paint than it was before. You don't even want to see much paint on it. I may have to go one more, lighten this up just a little bit more. I'm going to get a little bit more of this. Like I said, I'm gonna paint that whole plaque, so it's not gonna really matter if I get a splotch or two on it. So it's all gonna be spray painted anyway. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm probably gonna have to go one more shade brighter, but that's okay. But we're definitely getting where we're wanting. Alright, now let's put up this red paint for right now. Drop my brush in. Add a little bit more, just a pinch more orange. And just a pinch more white. Now, grab our friend the flat brush here. Actually, I'm going to grab this brush this time. Clean off the water and anything that's stuck to it. Let's go ahead and... that one's not going to do. It's stiff. We're going to go back to our friend the chisel brush here, this little flat brush. Now, go ahead and clean this brush off. And let's see how this looks now to dust it. I think I'm going to end up having to throw a little more orange to it. Or at least maybe an overcast of orange. That might be a good idea. Now, over here with that, I'm going to go ahead and just use a little orange and be done with it as an overcast. Let me get this opened up. Get a little bit of this on the brush. And just kind of do this. Now, Oh yeah, no, that's better. No, I'm not talking so much right now. Probably should be. Just kind of concentrating on what I'm doing. Sometimes I get a little bit lost in my reverie, and I do apologize for that. Now, the color's getting to where we want it. Let's bring this around here. Just barely want to touch it in the very ends of your brush here. You can already see, hopefully, the camera's picking up the fact that the details and stuff are starting to come out. Now, yeah. Now, do some more work. Now, I think we're going to be going next. Let's start on the darker patterns. So what we're going to do is we're going to get our... I'll put that brush up. It's going to grab this one right here, I think. We're going to mix up a little bit of this orange here. I'm going to put it just right here on this thing because I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to paint the whole thing when I'm done anyway. We'll use a little bit of this spiced berry. Kind of darken it just a little bit. Whoa, that was a little more than I wanted. Alright, may end up not being able to use all of that, but we'll see. May have to lighten it just a hair. Speaking of hairs, I got one right here. There we go. I have to put a little bit of white to this. Nope. Do not do that. I want to add just a pinch of white to the middle of that, because like I said, I plan on repainting this whole thing anyways. Oh yeah, that's much better. Now, what we're going to do now is it's got to be somewhere where it was in the middle earlier. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to mix in a little bit more of this red. It needs to be just a tad darker, but not quite to that degree. Maybe add just a pinch of yellow. Kind of brown this up a little bit because it's kind of a... trying to get to the color, trying to match the color of the pattern on this snake. I think it'll do. Now, let's take our friend here, come up here, I'm just gonna do that behind the eyes because they kind of have this mask thing going on. Now let's go up here on top because he's got a specific pattern up here on top. And I'm going to outline all this in black so you'll be able to see it much better. But I'm trying to kind of get this kind of a splotchy sort of pattern going on here. So I'm going to have to go through, and each one of these is going to have to be outlined in black. So now what I'm doing, I'm just kind of putting the splotches where I want them here. At this point, you're dealing with something that is a naturally occurring pattern, so it's really not much in the way of a right or a wrong here. Just remember to blackline it everywhere you have to. Now, I've got the pattern in place. Now we go to the black liner, and what we're going to do, I think I find my pinpoint brush here. I think it's our pinpointer. Yes, it is. Alright. Let's turn this so you can see what I'm doing. We're going to go for the black paint now. Line out this pattern. Line out the designs. So I can get a little bit of black paint, not too much, and I'm going to take my glasses off because I see a lot better up close than I do at a distance. As you can see, the pattern is starting to emerge. You don't want to use too much paint, but you do need enough to kind of give an idea of where the pattern is. And that's what we're now doing. Isn't nature beautiful, folks? Or even my own crude attempts at the same. Kind of just got a little bit of a pattern here that needs covered. To get a little more of this paint, I'm going to move this paint over here. It's making me nervous. Get a little bit more of this paint, kind of rub it down. I don't want to go too crazy with it because I don't want big globs of it. Once you master stuff like this, things like cobras and rattlesnakes and different types of snakes will all be within your grasp. Bring this around here. I still got to do his lip scales and stuff, but now bring that around so you can see now a little more in the light. So you kind of got a little bit of a elongated stripe right in there. And that's starting to come across very nice indeed. But while we're in the neighborhood, I might as well paint the eyes. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of this black. I'll come up here and gently get my fingers in the middle of these coils. And just gently, because I don't want to go too crazy with it. And I've got to put a little bit of brown on the eyes too. Let that dry. Then we'll have to use some standard brown on the eyes. Now, we have to go back to our friend the flat brush, and I'm going to close this off a minute. I got to have some white paint. What I'm going to do now is, as I said, I plan on using this as a base, but we're going to spray paint it, but I don't need all this excess paint on it. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this excess off on my old paint rag here. See? Now, one side with that. I'm going to grab this white paint, because I'm going to have to, I've got a little bit of his belly showing, and I've got to do an underside piece and paint the lip anyway. So, what we're going to do is we're going to go back. Alright, we're back. Ran out of file. Alright, you can see where we're at thus far. Now we're going to go with a chisel brush again. Find that spot where his stomach is showing. Right in here. Just kind of go up underneath here just a little tiny bit. Kind of hint at his underside. Now, gotta be very careful because I don't want to undo a lot of the work that I've already done. Now, we got to do a little bit of work on this facial scales up here. So we put that one up, and we grab our pinpoint brush again. Nope, that's not the pinpoint. Where's my pinpoint? There it is. Well, it's going to be bad because we're going to have to go from black to white. So that means it's going to be somewhat a bit dicey. But let's get ourselves a little bit of white paint here. Come up here. Just kind of just do this along the mouth here. And that goes down into here. And I'm going to have to probably, I'm going to end up having to let some of this dry, I suspect. Alright. A little more. In this case, I'm going to try to do my best to paint each individual lip scale, because there's where we're at right now. I've got a little bit more to do on the mouth, but it's going to have to dry for right now. Alright, we ran out of battery. Let me get this thing here where you can see. Let me get it up here in the light. I'm trying to get you. What do you think, guys? Let me try to maybe pick it up and hold it up to the light. I still got to do the pupils and a little bit of detail work on the mouth, but that's not bad, considering I hadn't done them in years. Anyways, I'm going to go upload. I got to go put this video together and upload it, and it'll probably be uploading all night. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Good night. Then we'll finish this.